to fifth year students, will they, fifth years, the incoming sixth years, will they sit the Leaving Cert in 2021?
I think I'll take that one. I would say, judging from the discussions and everything that's going forward, yes, that is the aim of the department, that the Leaving Cert will be run in 2021. However, our issue would be that the curriculum needs to be adjusted, considerations need to be made, because the fifth years coming into sixth year now in September have not had adequate time to cover the syllabus and the curriculum as it stands. So adjustments need to be made in this final year of their Leaving Cert cycle programme. And that would apply also for students coming from second year into third year now, who would be doing their junior cycle exams in next June 2021 as well. So both of those groups would have to have their curriculum looked at, and I would say personally that all would hope that COVID would behave itself and that the exams would be able to proceed to a degree as normal in 2021, with adjustments being made to the curriculum to accommodate for the lack of school time and curriculum time that has been experienced. All of this, it's like everything else. We need to have plans put into place. We need to have clear, considered and precise directions given to the schools so that parents, schools and teachers alike all know where they're going in the future with their exam students, and whether it be a mixture of blended or classroom time, that the curriculum can be covered and covered effectively and confidently by both parents, students and the teachers themselves, that they have confidence in the curriculum that's going to go forward for examination. But it leads itself into the whole discussion where we need to continue to examine and reevaluate our educational system and how we progress, and whether we really need to step up and move faster to the point where we will be removing the necessity for a terminal examination at the end of one's school life, and that will have to progress, and that talk and that discussion is going on, and it will continue to go on, and it will continue to go on irrespective of COVID-19, whether that has an impact in 2021 and 2022 on our educational system or not.
So to summarise, it is the ambition of the Minister that the Leaving Cert, speaking now in July 2020, will be held in the traditional format in 2021 if, as you say, COVID behaves itself, and it is the ambition of the Minister that the Junior Cert will likewise be held.
Well, I would be hard put to say that it was the ambition of the Minister when I haven't had that open and frank discussion with the Minister, but I would...
We'll say it's the, I'm not trying to trap you, but I have a supplementary on it. It is the ambition, all going well, that those two sets of state exams would continue if, as you say, the virus behaves itself. But having, I suppose, come through what we came through with this year's Leaving Cert, what have you learned? In other words, is there a date, you know, if the virus doesn't behave itself, beyond which you will decide, or a date on which you will decide that, okay, we can't trust that things are going to work out the way we want them to work out? Because one of the significant lessons about this Leaving Cert year was just the lack of decisiveness in when it came to a decision. And look, I absolutely appreciate the vast array of influencing factors that had to be considered in making that decision. But I would suspect that by the autumn or the return of the school year, which is 2 months away, a definitive decision should be made on that.
I would agree with you. I think that looking into the future, we're looking for decisions to be made. Having said that, we have to take into account that we don't know precisely what the health advice is going to be in September or October. So we do need to have decisions made. Yes, we need to have contingency plans in place as well. And I would be confident that that could come about, because the departmental advisory group that we as a parents' representative body are involved in, that is very progressive, it's very open, it's all topics and all manners of progressing forward through this pandemic are discussed and openly considered, and nothing is left off the table. Everything is openly discussed, and the logistics of implementing any one avenue is looked at as well. And we're still in the middle.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you there because my time is, I have a number of questions, but I'm grateful for your response. Chair, I'm going to take the answers that the witnesses gave to previous questions in relation to school transport, which are pertinent to my constituency, and in school transport providers, so we'll take them as given. Are there any plans to virus test students or teachers? Are all schools obliged to implement the COVID return to work form? What are the guidelines from the department on that? There are two questions. In relation to SNAs, it was probably covered already, but certainly those advocating on behalf of the SNAs are saying there'll be difficulties in relation to social distancing when it comes to peg feeding, meeting hygiene needs or providing assistance in a classroom, the PPE provision, if you can give some details about that. And look, there will be a number of schools throughout the country, even in my constituency, but I'm thinking of one, Gaelscoil Cnochleavna, which is a very run-down 20-year-old prefabricated building. And if, according to the news reports this morning, social distancing is really difficult and challenging there. I know you don't have a magic wand, and I know a lot of this all boils down to money. When will you be in a position to give a definitive line to parents, the vast majority of whom want their children to return in September? When will you be in a position to give a definitive outline of in what circumstances they can return, and what kind of procedures will be in place in relation to distancing, whether it's in relation to teachers, SNAs, and in terms particularly of special needs children, notwithstanding July provision, and I hear awful stories about July provision. It's like a tapestry. The front of it looks okay. It's when you look around the back and you see the squiggly bits, it's not working for parents who have special needs children at home. By the 1st of September, they'll be at home 6 months, and all the associated pressures and mental stress associated with that. And if there is a requirement, just what consideration is the department giving to this? If there is a requirement for all children not to attend school each day because of physical distancing requirements, what consideration are you giving to families where both parents are working, or families of a single parent where the single parent is working? And in relation to blended learning, had we had a decent broadband system, I suppose it would have created a level playing field. But one of the stories I hear back consistently from parents is the demand on the broadband at home. It's okay if there's just one person with one laptop, assuming all students have laptops or tablets, which they don't. But what kind of consideration are you giving in relation to where there's multiple use of IT at home, and or multiple use demand, but only one piece of equipment, where there's a parent working remotely from home and it's impacting on the bandwidth strength feeding into the systems. A lot of things we take for granted, I think, particularly living in urban areas, although 2/3 of my Dublin constituency is rural and there are issues with broadband in parts of that. But we talk about blended learning, and there seems to me to be an assumption that everybody has equal access to these blended learning facilities. So what have we learned over the last number of months in relation to that blended learning? So they're my questions. Thanks, Chair. And thanks.
So there is a lot of questions there. I'll try and start with the first one in terms of testing children for the virus. There's no plans that we're aware of where children will be tested for the virus in schools, other than what's happening in the normal population where people have symptoms. So I'm not aware of any other plans on that. In terms of blended learning at the primary level, I mean, the indications we're getting from parents is that it just really doesn't work. It may work better for more independent learners as they get older, but for young children, I suppose that they're not independent learners yet, and the teacher is a really important factor in their learning. So it's not always the access to devices or the access to broadband. It's more about where the child is at with their ability to learn independently. And generally what we're hearing from parents is that the blended learning is, well, the homeschool learning, which is happening at the moment, really isn't working in the majority of cases. And as time has gone on, it's working less and less.
Thank you.
And I think from a post-primary point of view, to add to my colleague's points there, the blended learning is probably slightly more of a feature in post-primary, as we've mentioned before, and the disparity of the broadband signal and availability of access to devices we have raised many times. It is, as you mentioned yourself, it's by and large a funding issue. And we are advocates and campaign for support for schools and for our children and for families in all those areas. But the questions that you're asking, the answers primarily come from funding. So we are engaged absolutely in advocating for those supports. Ultimately, it is the department and the minister and the government who make the decisions as to what's available. But I go back to the chunk of money that's available and being for industry and everything else. Education is critical and has got to be funded adequately.
And just also to add, I think that the homeschool learning and the blended learning just reinforces inequality. So where there's already educational inequality before we've started with the homeschool learning and any suggestion of blended learning in the first place, that just reinforces inequalities that are already in the system for some children.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Mr. Lahart.